Okay guys, so this is Carbon. He has never had a muzzle on before. Carbon is a boxer Brittany Spaniel mix. He is 12 years old. He's old enough to not put up with any of my shenanigans. So the first thing I would do when muzzle training a dog is to just put some way to communicate with them. So we're gonna put a slip lead on Carbon. Sit. Yes, thank you. So we're gonna put a slip lead on Carbon, and that's just so we have some semblance of a way to communicate with him. If your dog is really objecting, and it's a way to give a pop on the slip lead and say, knock it off if your dog is giving nonsense behavior. Carbon doesn't need it too much. The slip lead also will help the dog from running away, so it's just some basic semblance of control with your dog. Now, the buckles on this are adjustable. So it's just like normal buckles where you can adjust it looser or tighter. So I'm just gonna put it on Carbon and I'm just gonna put it around. If you notice, here is one side, here is the other, and it just goes around the head. So I'm gonna show you here. So we're just gonna put it, so he's never had this before. Just so you know, the better relationship you have with your dog, the better this is gonna go. If your dog is not trained, if your dog is wild and crazy, if your dog doesn't listen to you, you're really gonna struggle with this. So this #1 method that I like is because my dogs are fully trained. I am the alpha, they listen to me, and they do what I ask them to do even if they don't agree. So that's why I do it this way. Just so you know, if your relationship is strained with your dog, if they don't listen to you, you're gonna struggle with this way. Okay guys, so I had to move places because the floor was slippery and Carbon couldn't just sit. Okay, so over the nose, over the ear, and there's a clip back here, and let me make sure that's nice and fit right there. Ooh. Okay. So if you notice, there's a strap that goes over the middle of the forehead, and then there's straps on the side right here. And you want to make sure that the muzzle can be wiggled around, it's not pressing down on their nose. And we'll see how Carbon reacts. Carbon is like, I can't believe you're doing this to me, Mom, for a video. How dare you? So my next thought with him, if you're getting any digging and pawing, this is what the slip lead is for. I would give a nice firm pop on the slip lead and I would tell them to knock it off. So that is method #1. Let's go ahead and walk around with him here. So if you'll notice, Carbon doesn't quite want to move here. Let me just put this down a little bit. Carbon doesn't quite want to move. So I'm just gonna say, let's go. Alrighty. And then let's go. Let's go. Perfect. Come on, buddy. Good boy. Carbon doesn't know that he can act normal with this on. So he's just unsure, he just doesn't know. So I'm gonna act normal. I'm just gonna walk back and forth and I'm gonna help him realize that he doesn't have to be shut down with this. Let's go. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. We're gonna do some commands. Sit. Yes. Let's go, Carbon. Good boy. Let's go, Carbon. Good boy. Let's go, Carbon. See how he pawed at it? So I'm just gonna give a slight pop. Let's go, Carbon. Let's go, Carbon. Come on, get out of here. Let's go, Carbon. Come on, get out. Good boy, Carbon. Okay, come here, Carbon. Okay, just so you guys know, for the sake of this video, I'm not gonna go on and on and on. But how I would work it from here is, if he's trying to paw it off, I'd give a pop on the slip lead. And I would just go about my normal day. So I might take him on a walk with it. I might take him out into the yard. I would go about normally with the slip lead. I might even tether the slip lead to me. And the goal with this method is just to help him understand that even though he's got something new and a little bit invasive on his face, he can still act like he normally does. And if you were to continue with this method, I would do this for about half an hour on the first day, maybe 45 minutes the second, and then just build your way up from there. So this is the methodology that I would use if you have a good relationship with your dog, if you're under time constraints, and if your personality is just, I don't have time to make life a bed of roses all the time. So Carbon looks a little bit shut down here, but for the sake of this video, if I were to fully muzzle train him, I would just let him go about his normal day. I'd let him go outside and go potty. I'd take him on a walk. I'd interact with him like normal, just have him wear the muzzle, and then I just pop him when he tries to get the muzzle off. And pretty quickly, you're gonna see a dog who's just gonna be like, okay, it's just on my face. So that's method number one. Okay guys, method number two is using some good treats. So if I had one dog instead of four, and if I want to make this an activity, this is the way that I would recommend most people do this. Okay, I'm going to make sure that the straps are just completely out of the way, and I'm going to cup my hand underneath the muzzle. So where the nose would be, I'm just going to cup it underneath the muzzle. I'm going to put a few treats in there, and I want Carbon to put his nose in there and get some treats. Let's see if he actually does this. You can get the treats, Mr. Bugs. Okay, so this is part of the reason why with Carbon I use that first method. Carbon is old and he's already played this game. Carbon's one of my favorites. I do spoil him. So he might not even be willing to put his nose in for the treat. So with Carbon, I might do method number one. If you have multiple dogs, you might do one method with one dog and the other method with the other dogs. It just depends on your dog's personality. So with Carbon, I'm not gonna sit here and bribe and beg and plead and be like, please put your nose in here, right? So with Carbon, I'm probably gonna use method number one. I'm gonna put, now I'm holding it in two fingers and I'm putting it straight through the front like this. Let's see if he'll take it then. So if I wanted to use this method with Carbon, what I would probably do is I probably wouldn't feed him breakfast. I'd make sure he was good and hungry, and I'd use some high value treats and do this. Okay, I'm going to show you with Con here method number two because he's going to be more willing to work. Okay, so remember, slip lead on. So we're going to put the slip lead on Connie. I'm going to pull him over here so you can see him better. We're going to have him sit and lay down. You don't have to have them lay down, but I find it easier because you're going to be here for a little while, so laying down is easier. So I'm going to go ahead and open up these straps here. Con has never had this on his face yet. And I'm going to put the treats in my hand just like this. Yes. Good boy. And you can hold the pieces back so it's easier for them to put their head in. And I apologize for the dark piano back there. Hopefully you can still see. I'm going to hold the pieces back. He can smell it on my hands here. Yes, good boy. Good boy. And you might be a little bit awkward. I'm a little bit awkward with the pieces here. What I am is I'm kind of smushing my hand nice and tight against that muzzle and pushing it. The muzzle is now completely straight this way. And I'm gonna, good boy. Good boy. Okay, so he put his nose in, so I'm gonna do it without treats now. I have the treat in this hand, and we'll see if he'll put his nose in. Good boy. And then we'll see if he'll put his nose in. Good boy. And we'll see if he'll put his nose in. Good boy. And see if he'll put his nose in. In? Yes, good boy. Carbon, go lay down. And I want him to move forward and put his nose in. All the way in, yes, good boy. And put his nose in. And you can put a command to this. So I'm going to say muzzle. Muzzle. And I can help him out. I'm going to put the treat next to the muzzle there. Right here, buddy. No? Oh, there we go. Muzzle. Muzzle. Yes. Good boy. Muzzle. 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 I put the treat in to guide him. So the treat's right here. It's not in the muzzle yet. I want him to put his face in first. There we go. And then I'm going to give him the treat through the muzzle. If you notice, I initially started with giving him the treat outside of the muzzle, and I've moved to putting the treat inside of the muzzle. Initially, I just wanted a reward for putting his nose in the muzzle. Now I want the reward to come through. Yes, did you see that? He put it in the muzzle. Okay. Muzzle. Yes, good boy. Okay, so I'm going to move a little bit faster here. This is probably the activity that I would do for the first activity. You can stop here, right, for the first 15 minutes, and I would do this maybe once or twice or 3 times until it's very, very solid. Once your dog is really solid at this, you can move on, and I'm going to show you how to move on. Good boy. So how you move on is once his nose is in, and right now I haven't really fit it to his head. So I'm going to see if this will even fit around his head. Okay, so we need to make the straps looser for his head. There we go. Okay, so now that I've got the right fit for his head, I'm going to go ahead and say muzzle. Muzzle. Good boy. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it around his head. Okay, so the next step would be saying muzzle, muzzle, giving him a treat, and then holding it there for longer. Muzzle, muzzle, muzzle. I'm going to require him to hold it there for longer. Muzzle. Muzzle. And we're going to require him to hold it for longer. Ready? Muzzle. Muzzle. So I didn't give him the treat, muzzle, right away. I'm going to require him to hold it there for longer each time. So how I do that is I don't give him the treat right away. Muzzle. Muzzle. There we go. So that would be your next activity, is the length of his nose in the muzzle. I'm going to fast forward here. And the next step, step 3, would be muzzle. Muzzle, getting him to hold it there for longer and long enough, long enough to where you can place the strap around his head. You don't have to click it, but you can place the strap around his head and then reward him. So you'd say muzzle. And then you'd place the strap around the back of the head. I'm fast forwarding this for you, but the strap around the back of the head, and then you would reward with a treat. There we go. So because this is Khan's first time and we haven't practiced this, and this is not our 4th or 5th session, the first time is getting him to take the treat in the muzzle, and then having him hold it there, and then putting the strap on the back of the head and giving him the treat. And then with Khan, I'm just going to go straight to the last step here, and I'm going to move this muzzle. And Khan likes to put his head all the way back. So I'm going to go ahead and, come here, Connie. So I'm going to go ahead and strap him in around his head. You may need to do this a couple times to find the right, if it's too loose or too tight, to find the right length. So don't be afraid to try it and then be like, oh, that's too loose or too tight, and then try it again. And then now we just reward. And they're going to have to learn how to eat with the muzzle on because the hole is coming from underneath. So I generally, if you're feeding them treats, just know that it's going to have to come from more underneath. You can't just go straight at them. So it may take some time for them to understand how to eat and understand how to drink with this on. A good suggestion I have is to just, I call it chicken feeding, where you scatter it on the floor, and then they're going to have to learn how to use those holes. Connie doesn't know how to do that yet, but he's going to learn how to use those holes to get those treats. So don't be dismayed or upset if it takes your dog a little bit to understand how to actually drink and eat with it on. Okay, so just to recap, it's muzzle, reward, muzzle, reward, muzzle, reward, and then muzzle, and you're going to hold it for longer. Their nose should be longer in it, and then reward, and then it's muzzle, and you can put the strap around their head without clicking it, and then reward, and then muzzle, and then click it, and then reward, which is where we're at right here. The next step from here would just be to walk around the house, to let them go out to go potty, to go about your normal day, and just let them wear the muzzle and correct with the slip lead with a slight pop if they try and get it off. So hopefully this video was helpful. If your dog is not acting like the dogs in this video, that is okay. Message us, comment below, let us know, because a lot of dogs are going to fight this, are going to have different behavior, and we know how to work through that as well. So hopefully this was helpful. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.